Welcome to No Flipping Excuses with Jason Lucchese. Jason Lucchese was the guy voted least likely to succeed by his high school peers. Today, Jason's a real estate flipping ninja Jedi Knight assassin who's taken his drive, street smarts, and never give up attitude and converted them into a real estate flipping business and freedom-based lifestyle. After years of being chained to a cubicle in the mortgage business, watching his coworkers go bust, customers go bankrupt, and his hairline go bye-bye, Jason decided to make a change and blaze his trail to the flipping promised land. Each episode, Jason shares real-life real estate case studies, tips on how to find, finance, and flip deals, and mindset tactics he uses every day as a real estate investor, mentor, and leader so you can free yourself from the shackles of corporate America, fire your boss, and live the life you've always dreamed of, right flipping now. Here to share the truth about flipping houses, finding sellers, delivering buyers, real estate investing without the reality show hype, and all-around general business badassery. Your host, Krav Maga enthusiast, husband, and father of three, Jason Lucchese.
Hey there, it's Jason Lucchese with the No Flipping Excuses show. Welcome. I am so excited that you are here right now with us. We've got a jam-packed show. Before we get into that, though, if this is your first time, I would like to encourage you to go ahead and listen to this episode and then give us a rating and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, if you're returning, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you go ahead, subscribe, and also leave us a fair review. We would love to get a 5-star review. I'm here with the Chief Ninja Officer, and he, Mr. Michael Bredhauer. He would love to see those 5-star reviews. So let's get that going, and we've got an awesome show today. We've got an individual with us that has been rocking out the real estate business here, and he's not too far from me. He's in St. Charles, and I've got him on with us right now. Mike, are you with us?
Yes. Good morning, Jason. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. So, Michael Chatfield is with us right now, and Michael's been a part of some of our training programs, and he's been doing some pretty cool stuff. Mike, tell us a little bit about, like, how long have you been in the business?
About 3 to 4 years full time.
Okay.
I've been dabbling with rental properties for a little over 10 years, and got my real estate license for a little bit. Did retail for about 2 minutes, and then just stuck with the investing side. It took a while to get full time, because deals just weren't flowing, and I didn't treat it like a business. I did it, sometime, and it took a while to get to full time. So I'm pretty grateful to be here now.
No, that's awesome, man. So 3 years, and I know for me that first year was extremely brutal. What was, what helped get you past that first year? I don't want to say jitters, but I want to say that first year, like that hump that, you really need to get some momentum behind yourself to really realize, like, hey, this is full time. I can make a really great living off of this. What was that like for you?
Well, for me, since I had to go out and work and get, money for right now money, it took me a while to get that first deal. So, I would get motivated, and then I would get tired and just go to work, and then I get motivated, and I played that game for a while.
Yeah.
And then I finally got my first deal, my first wholesale deal, and I made $7,000, and I was so excited, and I was basically breaking out the champagne and celebrating and paying my bills and catching up on things. Well, I didn't put anything else back into marketing to get the ball rolling again, so I struggled to do the second deal the same way I did the first deal.
Gotcha.
Until I realized, feed the machine, take half or part of it, put it right back into marketing, and go out right away and get another deal. Until I realized that's when it broke loose for me.
Absolutely. And what would you say, why did you choose real estate as your path to go down to eventually having that as your full-time, your full-time thing?
Well, I tried other businesses, I did some network marketing and I still do some of that. But, late night infomercial with Carlton Sheep sitting by the pool in the ocean. And I said, man, real estate's pretty solid. It's always been solid. The best thing I love about real estate is people will always need a place to live, and whether the market's up or down, there's always ways to make money in real estate because it never goes anywhere. So,
Right. No, that's true. That's extremely true. And for us, this is our first time like talking with each other. Tell me a little bit about like what your business is like, because for mine, to kind of break it down, like what we're doing is 65% is wholesaling, a small percentage, maybe 5-10% is still rehabbing, and then the rest of it is building up, the income producing portfolio. What does your structure look like?
um, I've done rehabs, a few rehabs. It didn't do very good on them. It took a long time. I didn't make as much money as I thought. But I started out with rentals, and I still do rentals, and that's to me the rental business is my long-term wealth, the residual income to meet my expenses, you know. But I wholesale basically right now to feed that machine.
Sure.
You make money, you pay the bills, you find a house, you buy it, but eventually I have enough rental residual income to meet all my needs, and that way when I do a wholesale deal, I could, go buy a Harley Davidson or, go to Fiji or something with it.
Nice.
But but for me, it's wholesale, and why I wholesale, I always look for the perfect rental that fits in my criteria, for my portfolio. But it's basically, marketing, talking to sellers, and doing wholesale deals.
No, that's awesome. And we're going to get into, some of the marketing stuff that you're doing. And we're going to be discussing this recent deal that you did. And I know before we hopped on here and started discussing what we wanted to really kind of cover for the show, you were talking about some of the other deals you had in the works, which is awesome. So for right now, one of the things that I want to ask, because a lot of people, they really don't have this put together before they get started in the business, and it's really determining like your why. I think I got all googly eyed when I saw Carlton Cheats, and I wanted to be that person also interviewed on the beach there with that amazing background with
Right.
the clear ocean waters. I remember being in high school checking that stuff out, and I'm like, man, I so want to do that. And then as we start to grow older and things start to develop, you start developing a little bit of a why, like what's pushing you and motivating you to do this. What is that for you?
Um, just just a lifestyle of freedom. I have two small kids, and uh, we like to do things. We like to run. We like to go. We like to go to vacation.
Yeah.
Um, so in order to have that lifestyle, not only do you need income for that, but you also need time.
Hmm.
So when I grew up in construction and trading hours for dollars, there's nothing wrong with that, but it limits the time that you have and how much money you can make actually, because there's only so many hours in the day.
Right.
But what changed my life was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. It just taught me a different way to think about money. So after I read that book, I had this desire to be an entrepreneur, and it's just, I mean, not everybody's set out to be an entrepreneur. Some people don't like the craziness of it or what. As far as an entrepreneur in real estate, it's not that complicated because it's basically numbers and houses. It's pretty simple.
Right.
But the why is I just I want to be able to teach my kids that there's different ways to make money, different options, and you don't have to work 40 hours a week, or yeah, 40 hours a week to earn a living. You could do it 20 hours or 10 hours,
Yeah.
which allows you a lot more freedom. But also in the sales business, any kind of sales business, you're not limited to how much money you could bring in. So I don't want to be rich. Well, I wouldn't mind being rich, but my goal is not to be super wealthy and have a mansion. It's just to have freedom all week and not be limited of what I could do.
No,
With
that's awesome. That's awesome, man. And I think a lot of people when they're, first getting into real estate and they're watching tons of webinars and going to a ton of events, they hear, the speakers or whomever talking about that, and a lot of them, first of all, get involved with something because of that, and you need to really have the why behind it. And I believe that's really, really important. And I think your why is one of it's a big motivator for you to really succeed in this business. Now, from your standpoint, I know you like to vacation and do all that kind of stuff. Do you have your business set up right now to where you can do it remotely from anywhere, as long as you have like a laptop and cell phone?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
I want to get there. My next step is to kind of do more automation where I can. I've had some things in place before that was working out, but then didn't. So I'm still in the process of building that. But right now, I do have to be involved for that money to come. Now, I could do it 2 days a week, 3 days a week if I want to, but I have to be there to get it
Okay.
going.
Well, and that's something too that we have within the training program that you're involved in, like really kind of having the virtual assistants, getting them set up, and we can discuss that. I know we've discussed it on some other episodes previously, and I think with you doing the deals that you're doing right now, I think you're not too far from really making that a reality. And that leads me into what we're going to be discussing here in just a little bit with Mike is, the deal that he just recently did, how much time was spent on the deal, some of the marketing that Mike is doing, and, how he's really keeping a pipeline of deals to where he's having those deals closing for him consistently to where he can do the stuff with his two kids and do the vacationing and do all that good stuff. So stay tuned. You're going to want to not miss a beat of this show. We're going to be covering some awesome stuff here with Mike, and we're going to be going over this deal and also some of the other deals he has coming up. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you been struggling to close your first real estate deal? I hear this all the time, and you're not the only person in the not having closed your first deal boat. I was there, and the feeling is horrible. I can tell you on page 103 of my book, Right Flipping Now, I address how you can easily overcome closing your first deal quickly and easily without using any of your own money or credit. My first deal closed when I was on vacation. I made $26,000. You can do the same thing. Grab a copy of my book at getmyflippingbook.com and you can get your first deal closed for massive profits. I have copies of my book available at getmyflippingbook.com, and you can have a step-by-step plan for making profits on your first deal, closing within the next 30 to 60 days. Go to getmyflippingbook.com. That's getmyflippingbook.com. www.getmyflippingbook.com.
Hey there, it's Jason Lucchese, and welcome back to the No Flipping Excuses show. We have a special guest with us today from St. Charles, Missouri, Mr. Mike Chatfield. We've been discussing some of the things in his business, and we're going to be discussing this deal that he did on Patricia Road here in the Missouri area, because that's where Mike is doing the bulk of his deals. He was able to make a good amount of money on this deal. I just want to dive in a little bit deeper with him so you can understand how this deal was constructed, how it went to the closing table, and how he was able to walk away with a check. So Mike, talk to us a little bit about the Patricia deal. How did this start? How did you find out about the deal and all that good stuff?
Basically it was a follow-up. I think anybody that's done any training in the wholesale business, follow-up's a big key
Yeah.
part of it. It was just it was just in my follow-up rotation. I gave them a call, and they were at the point where they were completely, just ready to sell it, move on with their life. It was a rental property. Typical tenants moved out. I don't really want to. Owners don't want to fix it up. They want to put money into it. Don't want to put time into it. So
Yeah.
it was a follow-up, and went out and checked out the house. We negotiated the price, and this was a pretty simple deal for me because I was on the way out. I have an office with just a small office with 5 other investors, independent investors.
Yeah.
Um, I was headed out there, and I actually just talked to her about it, and she said, "Well, we'll be interested in it if you get it." So as soon as I got it under contracts, I put a lockbox on the door, and I called her back immediately and gave her a price because I already knew going out there what I wanted to get it for and what I wanted to sell it for. So
Sure.
I had already planned out. So when I went out there, I called her immediately, and she looked at it that night. And then the next day, I did an assignment contract, which basically, I'm not sure if everybody knows what an assignment contract is, but I just assigned the contract that I had in place with the seller to the end buyer, and it's just a one-page assignment agreement that says they're going to pay me this much for this contract. She signed it, sent it to the title company, and waited for closing.
Nice. So that
Really
was
simple.
that. Yeah, it sounds like a really simple deal. So did you just give the lockbox combo to your buyer and they went and saw the property?
Yes, I don't do that with everybody, but if I've done business with you before, or you bought from me before, or I know you're a friend of mine, yeah, I do that. I don't suggest if you don't know the person to do that,
Right.
But yeah, I knew her pretty well. We've done business before, so.
Gotcha. So on a lot of the wholesale deals that you're doing right now, are those repeat cash buyers?
Probably a third,
Okay.
probably. Yeah.
Okay. So it's that's still a decent amount of buyers. So in this particular case, it was somebody in your office. You found somebody in your office that wanted this deal. How much time did you actually put into this deal from start to finish? Would you say like maybe looking at the property, negotiating it, and going to closing? Like how much actual time do you think you actually spent in this deal?
Well, it's pretty crazy. I mean, these are, you can't really say that just this amount of time because of you got to keep in mind that the sellers that I talked to before I got to this one took a lot of time.
Sure.
But for this particular deal, I mean, 3 hours at the house, an hour doing emails with the title company and an hour with the buyer. So less than a day's worth of work.
Yeah.
Really.
Right. And I know before we took a break here, you were talking about, living life on your own terms, having the freedom and choosing if I want to work 2-3 days this week, I can. If I want to work more, that's great too. So it sounded like you really had the freedom on this deal, and the follow-up is key. Like I always tell people, like, especially if you're doing direct mail, like you have to have a follow-up sequence in place. You can't just do one mailer and not do a follow-up to the remainder, because you're always going to see more people respond, because you have to be different, especially in today's market. You have to stand out above, other people that are also doing direct mailers. So talk about that. Like, for the follow-up in your business, are you seeing that a good portion of your business is coming from follow-up, or tell us a little bit about that? Like, do you do a lot of follow-up?
I should do way more follow-up, but it's just it's one of those things that I really want to automate.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like doing it.
Sure.
Because I might follow up with you. I might have been following up with you 6 times, and every time I ask you the price, and you're at the same price,
Right.
and you feel like it's a waste of time, but I know in the 6th month that you're going to be ready to sell and we'll do business. But unless typically with the way I market, typically if I don't do a deal right away with you when you first call in, then you go on the follow up. So those are rare that you'll call in and then you'll be ready to sell, and we'll do a deal right then.
Yeah.
So typically, most of my deals probably come from the follow up if I look at it, um, but something I would definitely like to automate.
Yeah, and a couple different tips that I can share right now that we do is we don't use like some gargantuan CRM, a customer relationship marketing software or management software is what we use. We use there's two. We use one that we're really refining for ourselves. It's called Deal Manager Pro. That's a software that we're going to be having coming out. And then right now, Mike and I use ProsperWorks for our own business, which is just a software from that Google has come out with, and it's phenomenal. They just received, I think, how much was it, like $50 or $60 million from some sort of additional funding to make the software even better. And the software is great already, but the cool thing with that is what we typically do is we'll have somebody like a virtual assistant come on, and they'll see like, maybe I just spoke with Mike at 123 Main Street, and he said he wanted 40,000, and we're wanting to be around like 25,000. So what we'll do is we'll have like a drip follow-up sequence for the virtual assistant to make the calls, or send out like some sort of a letter saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know I was thinking about you, and we would still love to strike a deal with you. Just something simple, just to let them know, just to get our name in front of their face as often as possible. So when we do call them, they're like, oh yeah, I remember you, Jason. You've been following up with me to see when I want to sell, because like you said, sometimes you don't get the deal right off the bat. So follow-up is huge. And having a virtual assistant do that for you, because it also makes you, appear like, it's hard for people to get a hold of you. So having a virtual assistant do that for you makes you appear as the authority figure, and also puts you in a position of power. So when people do get you on the phone, they're like, oh yeah, for sure, let's do this deal. Now, not every single time is that going to happen, but that's just some of the things that we do in order to systematize the business and, just outsource that stuff to virtual assistants so they can do all those calls for us. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. I think what the key word you said is having systems, something I definitely need to have more of. But when you have systems in place, like you just mentioned, then you can implement other people to do it. And it works a lot. It works. It constantly works instead of sometimes works.
Right. And I know you said you did this deal on follow-up, but how did you initially get the deal? Was it like direct mail, or how was it brought up?
Postcards.
Oh, postcards.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now, are you using like a handwritten looking postcard, or is it like, it's a professional, like something's been already screened on there?
Handwritten.
Oh, cool. Okay. So handwritten, that's one of the key things that we're using too. We'll talk to Mike a little bit more about some of the marketing stuff that he's doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back here in just a second. Mike's got some additional deals that we want to discuss that are in his pipeline. So we're going to discuss that here in just a second. We're going to go into the marketing piece a little bit more, that the handwritten stuff, because I'll tell you what, you do have to do some split testing versus a letter versus a letter that is typed. You have to do postcard versus handwritten versus, something more professional looking. You do have to do split testing. And if you don't do that, you're never going to know what's working. And if you've got a conversion maybe at 2% and you never tested handwritten, that could have been another additional 2%. We're talking, those are big numbers, especially if you're doing like 1,000 pieces. We're talking the difference between 200 and 400, individuals potentially calling you. So we're going to discuss that here in just a bit. So stay in your seat. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I hear from real estate investors how much of a challenge it is finding motivated sellers. This is happening all over the country. Real estate investors not knowing where their next deal will come from. I can tell you on page 141 of my book, Right Flipping Now, I address how you can easily find deeply discounted off-market deals. The 98% of investors out there don't have a clue about this. You can easily duplicate this process within your own business today. Grab a copy of my book now at getmyflippingbook.com, and you can start finding deals for 50, 40, and 30 cents on the dollar without any competition. I have copies of my book available right now at getmyflippingbook.com, and you can have a step-by-step plan for making profits within the next 30 to 60 days. Go to getmyflippingbook.com. That's getmyflippingbook.com. It's www.getmyflippingbook.com.
Hey there, it's Jason Lucchese, and welcome back to the No Flipping Excuses show. I am joined by my good friend Mike Chatfield out of St. Charles, Missouri. For those of you that don't know, that's a suburb, right, Mike, out of St. Louis? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes, sir.
cool. So we're joined here with Mike. He's doing some awesome stuff here. We talked about this deal that he did on Patricia. It brought in $2,904.08 for 5 hours of work, and the deal came in from Mike just doing some simple follow-up. So we discussed that deal, and right before we left and had a quick break, we discussed some of the marketing that Mike is doing, and we also discussed some of the deals that he has going on in his pipeline. So let's talk about some of the deals that you've put together. They're in your pipeline. Let's discuss how you found them and what kind of process you have with getting those deals under contract.
Well, like I said at the beginning, when I first started, I was so happy to get money from a deal. I just took it all and I spent it and paid bills and
Right.
bought things. I was so excited. Well, I learned very quickly that in reality, if you start a wholesaling business, you might have to feed it at the beginning. You might have to put a lot of hours in calling stuff for free, or you might spend money. But in reality, you should make your first deal, and if you can, take all of it and feed your marketing right away. I mean, you went that long without a deal anyway, so just go ahead and skip this deal, put it all back into marketing, and you should never have to really feed your business anymore. It should be self-sufficient. Do a deal, take half, take a third and pay yourself and put the rest into your marketing. The beauty about real estate is you can make big chunks of money, so you don't need all of it to live on. So I basically just try to take a third out for myself, feed the business, and then I'm not spending all that money, but my business has money in it, so
Yeah.
I can keep the marketing going. So typically the three ways I do deals is bandit signs, which I don't suggest because they're a pain in the butt. But I do make money from them, and I don't put them out as often as I should, but I do make money. Direct mail, and I'm typically postcards. I do a little bit of vacant house letters, and then networking. Those are my big three. But the postcards are easily to get consistently going, whether you do 500 a week or 1,000 a week. Constantly have people calling in and talking about houses and making offers. I mean, the more houses that you can make offers on, of course, you're going to get more deals.
Yeah.
So the recent ones are coming from the postcards, and then I have one from networking with people.
Oh, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
So I know you said something just here, maybe like a minute or two ago, about putting in the work, especially in the beginning. Because I know, especially on some of the episodes, we discuss, deals, we discuss some of the things that you're doing right now. But what I really haven't covered with a lot of folks, especially just getting started, is putting in those hours, like you said. And it's really, you have to structure and put together a business plan. And I'm not talking about some some elaborate business plan that you're doing over a year or 5-year plan. I'm talking about just putting together like a 90-day business plan that you could follow so that you at least know what to do in your business on a daily basis. And for you, Mike, it sounded like you had a job that was bringing in monthly revenue before you went full time. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in construction, and when the economy kind of went, to crap, that there wasn't a lot of construction to be had.
Right.
So I was basically doing just jobs wherever I could, like construction jobs, just to keep money coming in
Right.
until my real estate. But yeah, if you if you do something, I explain to people, like, in real estate, it's like getting a train going. At the beginning, it's really hard to get that train going. But if you do, like you said about getting a plan, if you do bandit signs or postcards and you go out and you put 10 signs out and then you do like 20 postcards, there's no momentum. That train's not going to get going.
Right.
You gotta have something that you, like you said, put a plan together and then attack it.
Yeah.
If you really want to get moving fast.
Exactly. And you got to look at it. I like that analogy with the train. You have to put the coal in the engine in order for it to get any type of momentum. And once you get going, it's really hard to stop because once you have postcards going out, once you have the networking going out, and I love the online and offline portion for networking, especially on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. And then from the offline perspective, why don't you kind of talk about some of the stuff that you're doing from an offline perspective, Mike?
Well, I like to be out around people. That's one of my things. That's why I'm not as good at the tech stuff.
Yeah.
I try to align myself with people like that, and trainings like you have to help me implement those kind of things. But I do a lot of real estate meetings, local RIA meetings, any kind of networking deals that go around that people invite you to. The more people you talk to, the more invites and masterminds and things like that you'll go to. And I offer to people that are just trying to break loose in St. Louis to try to get a deal. I'll just we'll just go to lunch and we'll talk about what they're trying to do and what I'm doing. And I typically tell people, hey, if you got this thing going and you're having a hard time getting over that hump or pulling the trigger on a deal, I'll help you with that deal and see it through, and then we'll split it.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of lunches with people, and I make that offer. So, a lot of people take me up on it, and we get a deal done. And, we'll do deals together. We'll have a bond together. He'll go off, and they'll do their thing, and then eventually we'll do more deals together,
Yeah, and they could potentially be a bird dog for you, and you guys could do JV deals, because that's a great way, especially I try and recommend for folks that are first starting out. Like, it's easy to call the bandit signs. Like, if I called one of your bandit signs and I found out that you were, somebody with a buyer's list already, and I had a deal, it would be much easier for me to get that deal done in 2 hours rather than, try and find my own buyers and try and do everything myself, rather than, hey, we'll both make $3,000. I know I could have made $6,000, but it's better than making $0 and having the deal completely fall apart. So for you listening out there, some of the things that you can do, you could call the bandit signs. Mike's got them posted. Other investors I know post them. You could do the networking stuff. You could go to Rainmaker meetings. You can go to BNI meetings. You can go to your local real estate investor association meetings. A great one that you could do is you could go on your local meetup.com and you could find all of the local groups that are meeting. You'll find entrepreneur groups, business groups, real estate groups. You'll find a lot of groups out there for meeting and networking people, because Mike, how big do you think it is to have individuals in your network that you can kind of communicate with to see maybe they have a deal or you have a deal and you want to get it sold? How important do you think that is?
I think it's huge. I think 1 year a third of the income came from networking, and what you said is huge about calling somebody to bring them in on a deal. Because most people, what I see is they'll get everything going, they'll get the train, they'll get their marketing going, and all of a sudden it's time to go out to a house and actually write a contract.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing for a beginner, is to actually write a contract to buy a house. Because now like they believe that's all there is, and there's nothing they could do to get out of that, and they got to come through, and they don't know if they can. They get this worry. But if you bring somebody with you that could help you get through there, not only will you do it easily, but you'll see how easy it is.
Right.
And like you said, instead of sitting there and not pulling the trigger, well, yeah, make your 3,000, and then your confidence just built up, and you could go on and do another deal quickly.
That's huge, especially the confidence. I know when I was always in like 100% commission-based jobs, even when I was at Countrywide Home Loans, it was a small base that I received, but it wasn't really anything to, brag about. So when I got that first deal done, it was such a huge confident factor. It was phenomenal. And one of the tips that I'll give, because my very first deal that I thought was going to close didn't close, because this was at Countrywide. I let like almost 2-3 weeks go by, and I never communicated once with the person that I was doing the refinance for. And then all of a sudden I get what's called a CTC, a clear to close. I give them a call and I say, "Hey, we're ready to close." And on the phone, she was like, "Oh, I just closed with such and such the other day." And I was like, "Oh man, that really sucks." And she told me, she was like, "I didn't know if we still had anything going. You never communicated with me." And the same thing goes with your real estate investing business. You need to be giving people updates. So say, for instance, Mike is a seller and I've got a contract with him, and there's got to be communication there. So I would give Mike a call and I say, "Hey, I just want to make sure you have a copy of the contract. I emailed it over to you." And you could have a little bit of chit chat there, and you could be like, "Hey, me and an investor, we're going to come over. We've got our contractor with us. We're just going to take a look at the property. And if it's a vacant property, it's not going to be a big deal. But, the other thing too is if it's not vacant, it's really important to set up some times to go and look at the property. Because sometimes, and if we're wholesalers, I'm taking my contractor over there, but I also might be taking a prospective investor over there too that will want this deal. Because that's some of the things that we do, right, Mike? We take our investors over there. So maybe sometimes the owner, doesn't start striking up conversations, and we potentially lose the deal. Some of those things do happen, especially in the beginning, when you're working with buyers that you don't have relationships with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, like you said, the non-vacant houses, you have to be prepared to bring your contractors, to bring your leasing agents, or whatever you want to call them, to get people to see that house. I try to get 2 times ahead of time before I even advertise the house. So I know when people start calling in about wanting to see the house, I already know the 2 times that they're going to be available to go.
Yeah.
Instead of going from one guy going, "Oh, I could do Tuesday," and the other guy's on Monday, and then the seller's not even there in those 2 days.
No, that's a really great point, is, asking the owner, when are some good times that you could usually swing by without it being an inconvenience for them? Because, you want to get the deal done, you want to perform, you want to get this thing closed. And that's important. That's a great point, Mike. And what we're going to do here, I know we were going to talk about marketing here. We definitely are. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about some of the marketing tactics that Mike is using, what we're using in our business to really get deals coming in on a regular basis. And, one of the tips that we're going to also share is something that you can do with using a special service. If you don't have the time, maybe you're working during the day, we do have some tips for you if you can't take those calls. So stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. We're going to be discussing this here in just a second. So stay tuned.
Are you facing a roadblock with getting started in real estate? This is an obstacle a lot of brand new investors face. Building a rock solid foundation is key to building your investing empire. I can tell you on page 95 of my book, Right Flipping Now, I address how you can build a lasting foundation that won't topple over when you're on the third floor. Do not avoid laying the proper foundation for your business. I've made this drop dead simple for you to just rip off and use within your own real estate investing business. Grab a copy of my book now at getmyflippingbook.com, and you can have the confidence you need to find and flip deals consistently month after month. I have copies of my book available at getmyflippingbook.com, and you can have a step-by-step proven plan for making profits on your very first deal, or maybe that second deal, closing within the next 30 to 60 days. Go to getmyflippingbook.com. Getmyflippingbook.com.
Hey there, and welcome back. It's Jason Lucchese, and you're with us at the No Flipping Excuses show. I am joined here with my good friend Mike Chatfield out of St. Charles, Missouri, which is a suburb right out of St. Louis. We've been discussing deals that he's doing, deals that are in his pipeline, how he's getting deals from networking and having bandit signs up and doing direct mail. It's some really awesome stuff that Mike's doing in his business. And one of the things that, I really wanted to discuss here is, marketing. How are we getting deals? Because there's a lot of different ways. We're using LinkedIn, we're using Facebook, we're using YouTube for online strategies. We're using for offline. Direct mail is still very viable source. Mike's using bandit signs, which, I still see a lot of investors using them. They're getting deals from them. So it's still something that's working. So Mike, let's talk about some of the main core marketing tactics that you're using in your business to get, lead flow coming in.
Direct mail, that's, people get away from it. There's a lot of other ways to do it. There's the online training that you have that I'm excited to get into and get automated. Thing about direct mail is it's expensive, but the returns are a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But when you get those Home Depot ads and Best Buy ads and stuff, and you throw them in the trash, you think, why do they send them? Well, they send them for a reason, because they work. There's big companies spending money on direct mail. That's one of my biggest, because it's so easy to keep going, keep feeding. The bandit signs and the networking. I wanted to touch on that networking part of it too, because I just want to give the tip of I network. The more you give in this business and create win-wins for people, the more you'll get back. And there's so much real estate out there that we all make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So there's no scarcity in real estate, and you got to have that abundant mindset when you go into it. But if you're a seasoned investor, give to the newbies that are trying to get started and help them get started, and you'll make money with them.
Yeah.
And if you're a newbie, you could give to seasoned investors by, like you said, be a bird dog or put signs out for them or answer calls for them, or you could get involved with them and help them in their own way, and you can make money with them. So there's always something to give wherever you're coming from for the networking to make money with people.
Yeah, networking is huge. Networking is huge. I like that point that you bring up, especially with like the seasoned veterans helping a brand new investor out, because a lot of us, especially when I got started, I was really intimidated by filling out purchase agreements. I was just like, where do I put my name? Where do I put their name? Where do I put this? Where do I put that? It was very overwhelming, and you obviously don't want to screw up a purchase and sales agreement, and sometimes it could be very challenging, and you're like, oh man, what am I doing? I don't want to make this contract like to where they can null and void it at any time because I didn't put this in the right spot. So it can be very overwhelming, and having somebody just be like, hey, this is what you do, and maybe it's helping you do the contracts, maybe it's you doing having them find a title company for you. To me, that's still, helping out like a considerable amount. And would it warrant a 50-50 split? Probably not, but it would maybe warrant like, the person receives 80, I receive 20 for, doing a certain portion of the deal for that person. Like if I don't have to talk to the buyer, if I don't have to talk to the seller, and I'm just helping, fill out those pieces of the puzzle, then that's great. Like you said, I start seeing so much more in my business from doing more of the helping than I have of doing more of the more for me. So it's been like a tremendous thing to see. Like you said, living a life of abundance. We're constantly doing the best that we can to give to folks, and it's very, very rewarding. So from a marketing standpoint, obviously networking is huge. If you right now are struggling to just get out and do the networking, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's no better way of saying it. So one of the things that we're doing too, I know Mike has been talking about postcards. Postcards work really, really well, especially the handwritten ones. But I do recommend split testing. I know Mike was talking about vacant houses that you mail to. Are there any other like type of lists or niches that you like to mail to as well, Mike?
Not so much. I know people do probates and other things, and it's all really competitive. I mean,
Yeah.
A lot of times I talk to a buyer, a seller, and they're like, "Yeah, I got 12 of your postcards. Well, only 2 of them were mine, or whatever."
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I think a big part of wholesaling is timing.
Yeah.
So when you sent a postcard 2 months ago, their rental property was completely fine, and then the second month it was fine. But then the third card they got was when they went over and seen how bad the tenant destroyed the house.
Yeah.
They're going through an eviction or whatever the timing issue may be, but when they get that card at that time, then you're the one they call.
Right.
But if you do it one time and everything's fine, well, they just throw it in the trash. So I think it's a consistent thing myself.
So again, it really kind of comes back to having follow up and not just sending the one piece and being one and done. It's actually, maybe you do a postcard to the list due to your marketing budget. Maybe you do it once a month. And, for us, we like to do it once a week. What we'll do is the people that call us after that first week, we take them off and then we continue to mail to that list. And then after we go through the 4 weeks, then it goes to a 1 month. So we continue to utilize the lists. And I'll tell you this, if your list is really cold after the first two mailings, I would probably say it's not a good list. So I would probably venture off onto getting a newer list for yourself. Some of the stuff we like to do the vacant houses. We like to do the absentee owners as well, which is somewhat similar, but it's not because it depends. So we like to do those as well. So I would recommend, especially for individuals that are wanting to either scale their business or get started with this, the postcard is a really great route to go because you could send off 1,000 pieces compared to maybe like 300 to 400 letters that are handwritten. So it does save you quite a bit, and it does get you in front of more homeowners. Wouldn't you agree on that, Mike?
Absolutely. Like you said, what I found on the numbers is a letter is about $1.
Yeah.
And a postcard's 50 cents, around those prices. So, the letter's more effective, and you could, send to 1,000 houses, but I could do 2,000 and probably have better luck of getting somebody to call in.
Yeah.
The way.
No, absolutely. And let me ask you this. So with your postcards that you're doing right now, are you putting a regular stamp on there, or is it like a computer generated stamp?
I've done both. Right now I have a printer that does it. So it's handwritten, and it still has that. It does affect the response rate, but again, I could do more numbers this way.
Okay.
So
So yeah.
I do the handwritten postcard, with the stamp.
Okay. So you're more or less thinking quantity, sending out as much quantity as possible, get that postcard out to as many owners as possible to get that potential deal under contract.
Absolutely.
Uh,
I think if you just starting out and you're really ready to go and you have some money to set aside to start this business, if you really wanted to take 4 days or 5 days to straight work in this business, and you take $4,000 and put it on postcards and send it to a list, you could send out 8,000 postcards, and pretty sure you'll talk to some people and get some momentum.
I would hope so with 8,000
Yeah,
postcards.
right. So you spend all day talking to sellers, taking that low hanging fruit, and say you get one deal for $6,000. So you just made $2,000 in 1 week. That's
Yeah.
still pretty good. And that's if you only do one deal out of that bunch, you know?
Yeah, with us, when we do a mailing of about 5,000 postcards, we're probably going to see 2-3 deals on that, and we're talking $2,500 in expenses, and we're seeing on average right now for our wholesale deals, they're about $10,000 to $15,000. So if we're doing 2 to 3 of those, that's anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000. So I would say that's a pretty strong return on investment, wouldn't you?
I mean, I would repeat that all day long.
Yeah, exactly. And some people right off the bat, they want to send maybe 100 pieces or 200 pieces. Are you going to see the results that you want right off the bat? Probably not. So what I would recommend is, if you are going to do direct mail, especially with postcards, I would recommend sending off the larger quantities, because that's going to, if you could send off 1,000, you're more than likely, and I can't guarantee it, but you're more than likely going to see 1 or 2 deals out of that bunch. And if you're worried about sending off even bigger quantities for your first batch, to feel comfortable about it, I would say 1,000 would be good, especially for your first. That's going to run you about $500, and you could go to a lot of different direct mail houses. We like to use Yellow Letters Complete. They could hook you up with the lead, the mailing address, and do all of it for you. So they could do all of the sending out for you. So you don't have to do the handwriting yourself. You don't have to do any of that. So that's a really great source to use. But Mike, we're getting to that point. Within the podcast. How can people get a hold of you? Like, say, for instance, they want some deals within the St. Louis and St. Charles area. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, I check email every day. My phone, I give out my cell phone number to other investors that we could work together. So, the websites that are easy, if you want to be on my buyers list, you want me to send deals to you when they first come, you could go to dealsforinvestors.com and sign up and tell me what your criteria is and all that stuff. If you have a house for sale, you could go to incomeforyourhouse.com, and then I'll get a hold of you that way. And if you just want to talk shop or talk about deals here in St. Louis, you can call me 314-322-7466. That's 314-322-7466. And if you want to hook up and do some email, just text me and I'll send you my email address, and we could start networking from there. But just back to the mailing out big quantities.
Yeah.
The one thing I tell people is, like, if you talk to one person once a week, you don't get very fired up, especially if it's not a deal. But if you could talk to 10 people in one day, and you just get off the phone, it's not a deal, and you're talking to another person, and you start getting excitement and start getting fired up when you talk to more people all at once. So I would strongly suggest try to get some momentum fast, instead of one. You talk to 10 people and you got one house to look at. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Talk to one person that day and it wasn't a deal, then you're just kind of like, well, when is this going to happen for me?
Exactly. I always like to say emotion creates motion, and you have to have that, because you're going to see some really great results. And so that's something I highly encourage is, if you could talk to 5-10 people every single day, and you could do that, absolutely. You could find people to connect with on LinkedIn, find people to connect with on Facebook, YouTube. You could start talking to people all the time. You could do the direct mail pieces. The thing is, you want to stay consistent in this business daily, especially Monday through Friday. Obviously we need some times where we could have, our Saturdays and Sundays, but, most of the time, I'm still, working on Saturdays and Sundays, but I don't really view it as work. So some people may view it as work. I really don't. But that's just completely up to you. We're just trying to help out as much as possible. And that's one of the key things is, making sure that you're talking to people. Because if you're not, like Mike said, he brings up a solid point here. You're not going to be, excited, and you need that excitement in order to do this business. So it's been a pleasure doing this episode. For those of you that want to reach out to us, if you need any type of help whatsoever, you could always call us at 317-900-1307. You could also reach us by email, which is support@jasonluchesi.com, and that's JASONLUCCHESI.com. Mike, is there any parting words before we go ahead and wrap it up here?
Well, I just want to tell everybody that there's a lot of different kinds of people from backgrounds doing this business, and you could definitely do it as well if you're just starting out. And I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. This has been awesome. It's always a great thing to have individuals that are going through the training program come on, especially with success. You're doing some awesome things. So thank you for being a guest on the podcast today, the No Flipping Excuses show. And for those of you that just listened to this episode, if this was your first time, make sure you leave us a rating. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We would greatly appreciate it. You'll be notified. We do weekly episodes. Sometimes we do 2 in a week, which is awesome because they're all full of content. But other than that, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye now.
Thanks for listening. For show notes and links to anything discussed on today's program, visit noflippingexcuses.com. If you'd like to call the show, dial 317-900-1307, 24/7. Leave a message with your first name and where you're calling from, and include your question, comment, or concern. Who knows? You might end up on the air with Jason Lucchesi. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. The links are posted at noflippingexcuses.com. Remember, you can close more deals now, make your own rules, and design and live an amazing life without having some jerk-off boss tell you what to do. Share noflippingexcuses.com with like-minded people you know who are ready for badassery, crushing it in real estate, and enjoying freedom to whatever you like, whenever you like it.